Okay. Hello, hello, hello. How are you? We are starting the broadcast. This is the Global Brain Project Google Hangout. And I'm your host with David Russell. My name is Peter Liu. This is our first live Google Hangout for the Global Brain Project. And so you know who I am. I live in New York. I like to make art. I like to organize local communities around social justice issues. And of course, I meditate. I've been meditating I started about 20 years ago. And I'm also a Tai Chi practitioner and instructor. And David, are you there?
Yes, I am. Sorry, I just had to close my door. Yes, I am David Russell, and I run the Global Brain Project. If you don't know what the Global Brain Project is, please do take a look at the website. Just all you need to do is read the homepage. It will tell you exactly what we're about there. But to save you that trouble, I'm going to tell you now. The Global Brain Project is a project designed to activate the global brain, as the name suggests. The whole project is based on Gaia theory. If you know about Gaia theory says that the world, it consists of systems that replicate the systems within human beings. And on that basis, I figure that if that's the case with the world, it must have a brain, and something's got to think for it. And the only thing that can think for the world is us. We are actually the neurons in the global brain, and the whole purpose of this project is to activate those neurons. Within the website, there is an opportunity to sign up and acknowledge your role as a neuron, because acknowledging that role makes you one. It makes you an influence on the way the world develops. You become truly, although you are already part of the global brain, you become truly part of the global brain. So that's what I do. Anything else I need to say, Peter?
Well, yeah. First of all, let's tell people a little bit about what the global brain is, and just a little background on the history of the concept of the global brain and how that will create an impact on the world.
Right. Okay. So the brain works. This is an exact replica of the human brain. The human brain works with neurons communicating with each other over vast distances. And in fact, Facebook replicates that in global brain terms. When neurons go into a coherent form of communication, they are extremely powerful. And in acknowledging that you are a neuron in the global brain, you produce a coherence. And that coherence is exemplified by the experiences that the many people who join us for the Saturday meditation events have in their meditation. Lots and lots of people write to me saying that they have fantastic experiences. I mean, I have fantastic experiences every Saturday, although I must say, having meditated for 47 years, I have pretty good experiences every day. But on Saturday, the experience I have as a part of this coherent group meditation is much more potent, much more blissful is the only word I can describe it. I meditate every day, twice a day for 20 minutes. On Saturdays, if I don't stop myself, I meditate for an hour. I just get carried away by the potency of the coherence that is generated within the meditation event. And that is an example of how the global brain can work and can produce real change in the world. I mean, this is about creating a better world. If we can, there are so many people on Facebook who are spiritually orientated, who want the world to be a better place. And if we are all thinking the same thing at the same time, having the same experience, more or less, as the same coherent experience, what's more, we are going to produce that change. If we get enough people, and I'll be talking more about this later, if we get enough people doing this together, we will affect a phase transition in the way the world operates. And that is the aim of the global brain. I'm here trying to create a better world. I mean, we are all trying to create a better world, aren't we? How's
Yes,
that?
absolutely, absolutely. And I believe there are definitely historical precedents for what you've just been talking about,
Yes,
something known as the Maharishi effect.
right. Yes, indeed. The Maharishi effect is a well-proven sociological effect. Maharishi used to organize group meditations of 3,000 people, and he used to organize them in particular cities. When the group was meditating over a weekend, say, crime would decline, the emergency services would be called out on a much less frequent basis, violent crime would decrease, the stock market would go up. I mean, there were so many positive things that seemed to relate to
Hmm.
this group meditation, and that is the Maharishi effect. Now, 3,000 meditators doing it together worldwide, that would be great, but we don't need that many meditators. What we ideally need is 800 people, just 800 people. 800 people meditating together constitutes 0.1% of the 0.1% of something. Hold on. Of the never mind. But 800 people creates a very cohesive, positive, and potent effect. 800 people
It's
is 1% of the
the world population, isn't that correct?
1% of the square root of the world's population. Sorry, it's a bit late and I'm having brain
Right.
seizure. But then, as you may know, Gaia theory was created by, the guy who came up with Gaia theory is a guy called George Lovelock. And when you actually
James,
read
James,
what he has to say, he has there's a tremendous logic to it. I mean, you can see systems. Sorry, go on. I can't hear you.
oh,
Right.
no, go ahead. It was, I believe, it was James Lovelock.
I'm not hearing you, Peter.
I'm saying I believe it was James Lovelock that.
Yeah. Did
Yeah.
you hear the bit about the system?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was.
Hmm.
It was. When you actually look at the world, you can see the systems that replicate the human body. You can see, for example, the communication system replicating the nervous system. You can see, for example, the river and water systems replicating the blood flow within the body. There are just so many systems within Gaia theory that replicate systems within the human body. The globe has to be a living thing. I mean, we all know it's a living thing. We can feel it's a living thing. It has to have a brain, and we are that brain. What we need to do is we need to activate it and bring it to a state of coherence. Ideally, we need it to be coherent all the time, but we're working on that. I mean, we're still quite a long way from it, but we are working on it. If we can get it to a level where it is coherent all the time, honestly, we will create the world that we all want. We all want the world to be a place where there's no poverty, where people can live free lives without commercial pressures, without poor people dying on the streets of starvation. We all want that. We all want a world with less crime, much less crime. There are so many things that we want from the world. We're just not sure how to get them or how to make them happen. This is the way to make them happen, through bringing the global brain into a state of coherence. How's that?
Yes, very
That nearly
good.
killed me, I have to tell you.
Um,
All this heavy thinking.
there is something called the Global Consciousness Project that is how we know these effects, the
Right.
Maharishi effect, and others. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
How
The
does
Global
how does
Consciousness Project is very interesting. It's run by a guy who is a good friend of mine, whose name I can't remember at the moment, but that's not unusual. I'm not very good with names. Um, it started just before Princess Diana died, and they set up a series of machines generating random binary, just ones and zeros. And they found that when Princess Diana died, the binary came into coherence. It would produce long, long strings of zeros or long, long strings of ones. And there are 72 of these machines, I believe. It might be 69, but I think it's in the 70s, distributed throughout the world. Whenever there is an earthquake or a volcanic explosion, it's presaged on these machines by a series of coherent binary. People are obviously having a collective experience that produces that binary, that coherent binary. When there's a major world disaster, the binary, the tsunami in Thailand on Boxing Day a few years ago, that produced very coherent binary. It's the only project that really it's the only project that really gives us an indication that consciousness is at work. Um, and for that reason, it's very important. Now, the Global Consciousness Project monitors our events. At the moment, there's nothing. But if we get 800 people meditating together, it just might show something. 8,000 would be much better. But 800, that should do it. I'm not promising, but I think that probably it will be coherent enough to produce the right effect.
Mhm.
What else is there? I mean, the project goes on. It's run privately now by a guy who was a researcher at Princeton, and he now just runs the Global Consciousness Project. He's retired, and he just monitors it. And we stay in touch through Facebook, funnily enough.
Mhm.
And he's very much into what we're doing. He thinks that we will produce an effect if we can get the numbers up. So that's the Global
Mhm. Is
Project.
this the Institute for Noetic Sciences?
No, it's not. I don't think. It might have a connection. He might work with them in some ways, but I only know him through his work with the Global Consciousness Project. He's a very nice guy, very, very together.
Mhm.
So, shall we start to talk about something more interesting? Well, not that that wasn't interesting, I hope.
Yeah, I think you have written on the website. First of all, we should give people the website domain name. I don't know if that's on our page, but website Global Brain Project.
The website is
Or maybe we could just post
www.project. Sorry, go on again. What did you
it.
say?
We could also post it on the page.
Well,
Yeah.
yes, I will post it.
Well,
It's posted on every single one of the graphics and I post the meditation event. Underneath the meditation, the event announcement, there is a bit about the meditation I offer on the site, and the link is always in that, and that appears all over Facebook.
All right.
I mean, if you're a friend of
Good.
mine, if you're not a friend of mine, you just have to be lucky. Well, talking about luck, let's do a little switch here. I wanted to talk this time about karma, because karma has such an influence on the way we live and what life is. On the whole, I'm being pestered by my cat. On the whole, not on the whole, everybody is afflicted by one thing that seems to be random, and it is luck. We are all afflicted by luck. It seems to be completely random. Hold on a second. Cat, can you do the cat? Thank you. Just letting the cat out. It seems to be a random thing, but if you look around you at the cosmos, nothing in the cosmos is random. Everything has a reason and a meaning and is part of a system, and luck is the same. Luck is not... Hold on a second. Excuse me. Could you close the doors, please? Otherwise I hear you. Thank you. Luck is not random at all. Luck is karma. Karma is... how can I describe it? Well, karma is based on a physics theory, action and reaction. Every action in life creates, not necessarily in life, but every reaction in everything creates a reaction. And that is what karma is. Karma is caused, produced by our actions. And the luck we experience is not produced by actions we do now, it's produced by actions that we have done in the past. Karma has a place, in a very important place, in the equation that defines what life is about. If you think of life, life is an equation, and it is a matter of birth, living, oblique evolution, which is what we're here for, to learn and to evolve, death, reincarnation, and you're back to birth. Every time that happens, every lifetime, we produce some karma. And many of us have been through lots and lots of lifetimes, and we have a lot of karma. And a lot of it is not very good karma. If you think about it, it's only in the last 100 years ago that 100 years or so, that life has become a civilized experience. Before the start of the 19th century, life was an experience where we had to fight to live. Starvation was on our doorstep. We had nothing that could combat illness. We lived raw and violent lives, and the karma that we produced in those lifetimes is what we are now experiencing. That is why people quite often do not have good luck. There is another aspect of this, and it is how karma influences the position in which you are born. Some people are born into families with lots of money. Some people are born dirt poor. And there doesn't seem to be any rule that defines this. I can't say for sure what does define it, but I do think that it is defined by how much you need to learn and how much you need to learn, what you need to learn, and how best you can learn it. You might be born into a wealthy family, but that does not necessarily mean you're going to be happy. I mean, I know lots of very poor people. I'm one of them who are extremely happy. It is a matter of, I think, the position in which you are born is dictated by what you need to learn in this life, but I can't say for sure. But I can say that karma is a factor that influences all of us, all the time in this life. Now, karma is very individual. We each have our own karma, and it must be stored somewhere. We are essentially, although we interact with our environment and with life generally, we are closed systems. Everything that comprises what we are is within us, and karma is part of that. I maintain, and in fact I'm not the only one who maintains this, karma is actually written in the nervous system, and it's written as stress. When you meditate, what happens is every meditation, every form of meditation, every form of yoga is karma yoga. They might call it different names, but essentially it has the same effect. It removes stress from the nervous system. Now, my experience is that when stress starts to leave the nervous system, karma moves faster. That would seem to suggest that karma and stress are inextricably linked, almost so closely linked that they are the same thing. Some years ago, in the Lancet, I read a couple of articles that talked about newborn babies. They had discovered that newborn babies were coming into the world with 5 times the amount of stress that the most traumatic birth experiences could have produced. And nobody was sure why that was. They were going to do research to find out. Since that time, I have not been able to find any mention of these articles, but I think that is probably just the way the medical profession works. If any medical phenomenon seems to have a metaphysical solution to it, a metaphysical or a spiritual solution, the medical profession tends to push it under the carpet. And this stress level in newborn babies does have a metaphysical reason to it. When we are born, we bring karma with us from many, many previous incarnations, and it is that karma that is written into the nervous systems of newborn babies. That is where our previous karma is written. That is where it resides, and it is that stress, oblique karma, that meditation removes. I practice and teach on my website, or offer on my website, a meditation that removes karma very gently. If you practice meditation for long periods of time, your karma, your stress will leave your system in a dramatic way, and quite frankly, shit will fall on your head from a high place. I mean, the fact that karma and stress are so closely linked seems so obvious to me, and I'm sure anyone who has meditated for any length of time will have come to the same sort of conclusions. Stress and karma, they are virtually the same thing. Now, the ultimate goal of meditation is enlightenment. Enlightenment is defined by a complete absence of stress. And without stress, your nervous system is completely clear. Your mind you are using 100% of your mind. The way thought operates is thought comes in the mind, starts in the mind from a very deep level, and it passes up like a tiny bubble in a pond to break on the surface, and we become aware of it. On the way up through the levels of this mind pond, as it were, it is filtered by stresses. So thought might start as a very pure thing deep within the mind, but by the time it gets to the surface of the mind, it is something completely different. If you are, one of the defining factors of enlightenment is a lack of karma. So a lack of karma, a lack of stress. If you have no stress, you have no karma. One of the interesting things about meditation is that enlightenment is an absolute, but it's an absolute that exists within a zone. Um, I am in that zone. I'm a long way from being enlightened, but I no longer make karma. I still have karma to use up, and a lot of it. I mean, I'll be around for a lot of incarnations to come, I can tell you. I've still got a lot of karma to go. But I no longer make karma. And that is a crucial factor. And it's one of the wonderful things about this meditation. I mean, I have achieved this state in just 47 years. People work incarnation after incarnation, practicing meditations that don't have the right effect. And they don't get anywhere near where I've got. I mean, I'm not boasting about this, but I have to acknowledge that it is a factor in my life. I don't make karma. It's as simple as that. So that's essentially karma. Is there anything that I should have said that I haven't said, Peter?
Well, there's a lot to go into on this topic, but perhaps we could about the concept of evolution on a personal level and also on the global level, because it seems to me that what we are doing with the Global Brain Project is also what you might call, the biologist Bruce Lipton called it a fractal evolution. In other words, that what's happening on a small scale from the cellular to the global is what they call self-similar. In other words, there's replications on all scales, and that so there's a scaling up of effects. And it seems to me this is very much tied in with what you're talking about here.
Well, I think that a lot of people on Facebook are very aware that consciousness is expanding globally. I mean, let's be clear. Global consciousness relates to individual consciousness. If you want to change an orange into an apple, you have to change every molecule within that orange. And the world is like that. You have to change people on an individual level. That is why meditation is so important. If you meditate individuals, if we meditate, we are changing ourselves, we are evolving. Not only are we evolving, we're evolving on the fast track. This is fast track evolution. I mean, every lifetime we evolve a little bit. Life is about increasing consciousness. And if you are just learning new things, opening up the heart so that one is more compassionate, understanding what life is about, this is all part of evolution. However, it's only when you are actually removing deep stresses from the nervous system, and the deep stresses are the oldest stresses. The stresses go into the nervous system on different levels, and the old stresses, they're buried very, very deeply. With the meditation that I offer on my website, the way you remove stress is very simple. It's just a matter of very deep rest. When you meditate using the technique that I use, and this has been demonstrated in peer-reviewed research papers, you get a level of rest that is 2.5 times deeper than the deepest sleep. Sleep is about getting rid of day-to-day stresses, but you don't get to the deep ones. With meditation and that very deep level of stress, you do get to the deep stresses, you do remove them. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens over a long period, but slowly you eat into the stresses, and slowly they disappear. And as they disappear, you remove stresses in meditation, and when you come out of meditation, you sit quietly for a couple of minutes, and what happens is, like the 10,000 skins of an onion, your level of consciousness increases minutely each time you do it, each time. That is why it is so important to meditate on a regular basis. Regularity brings you a familiarity with deeper levels of the mind, deeper levels of consciousness, but it also gives the onion, as it were, the 10,000 skins of the onion, time to develop a substance. And what happens is, after every meditation, whether you're aware of it or not, you are functioning with slightly more consciousness than you were before. And that is what defines evolution. Increased consciousness is what defines evolution. There's no two ways about it. Anything else I need to say here?
Yeah, well,
A lot of
about the deep layers, has this to do with reincarnation?
It has to do with previous incarnations. I mean, I talked about how we've all lived a lot of lives. We've all lived a lot of incarnations, but it's only in the last 150, maybe 200 years that life has become a civilized experience. And that is the reason that consciousness is actually increasing now. It is because we have had a long period without major wars. Life has become a much less fraught, violent, abusive experience. I mean, in previous incarnations in history, we had to fight to survive. And when you have to fight to survive, I don't mean fight in wars, I mean just struggle. We had to struggle to survive. That produces very, very heavy karma. And that karma goes into the nervous system, and it stays, and it stays, and it stays until you start to remove it. And that's what the meditation that I offer and I do is about. That's why we do the meditation events, because it helps people to evolve, and evolution is what life is about.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm not very cohesive here, am I?
No, that's great. So, you know, on the sort of planetary or maybe galactic level, there are a lot of forces at play here, and we were talking a little bit earlier about something that you wanted to mention.
Yeah.
About the time frame that we are in right now. Can you talk about that?
At the moment, well, 2 weeks ago, we had 4 planets that formed a cardinal grand cross. The 4 planets were each at 13 degrees in particular signs. The planets were Mars, Jupiter, Uranus, and Pluto. And although they are no longer at 13 degrees, the grand cross is still operative. The planets all move at different speeds. Mars is a planet that is really orientated towards violence and wars, but that is the most negative influence. However, it moves fastest of the 4 planets. Uranus is about the opportunity for change. It's about changing global consciousness, in fact. Pluto is about revealing the lies and deceptions that corporations and institutions have perpetrated that have defined the world for far too long. And Jupiter is about something else. But what happens is all these planets move at different speeds. Jupiter, Uranus and Pluto are going to be around in an influential conjunction for more than a couple of years. Mars, however, moves much faster than them, and its influence, although it's very strong at the moment, as you can see in the Ukraine, for example, you can see Mars's influence operating very directly in what is happening in the Ukraine. However, Mars goes out of the cross at the end of June. So this is really our moment. This is the moment that we've all been waiting for. The astrological aspects here speak very loudly of global change, and it is up to us now to grab hold of the positive influences and make that change happen. That is why I'm so concerned to get the meditation events up to 800 people. I think that 800 people will produce a phase transition that will change the world. I'm not saying it's going to make for a total a new, totally new and wonderful world, but it's certainly going to improve things. And already you can see it happening. I mean, look at how people are reacting at the moment to Monsanto and genetic manipulation. I mean, there is a real global impetus to change the things that are corrupting the world. That's all coming from, I know it sounds very space cadet, but it's all coming from the astrology. Astrology has a strong influence on what is happening in the world, not in terms of individual horoscopes, but in terms of cosmic events. It's cosmic events that the astrology influences. We are at a time when the astrology seems to be telling us very loudly, come on guys, get it together. Get it together. Let's change the world. And I'd like to see that happen a great deal.
Yes.
Yes, sorry.
Yes.
Again.
Yeah, there's what I've noticed, and actually the reason why I even reached out, contacted you, discovering the Global Brain Project was that there is very noticeably, I was sort of scouring Facebook and the internet and finding that there are quite a lot of groups that are related to what we're doing here. In other words, there are groups that are realizing that synchronized simultaneous meditations have a very powerful effect. And in Peter Russell's book, The Global Brain Awakens, he outlined that there are various kinds of evolutionary growths, and for instance, technology and information, as we all know, has tremendously exponential growth, and it's just increasing at all times. But surprisingly, and this was written some time ago, that even back then, that the growth of conscious awareness is even greater. In fact, it's the greatest, fastest growing aspect socially in the developed world. And so I think that this sort of like growing consciousness, that our minds have a tremendous power once linked together, and we see it in all sorts of levels, from what you said, like just awareness of things like GMO and the development of technologies that link us together, and basically an understanding that our holistic desires are really taking a precedence. I think it really comes out of a sense of looking to our hearts.
Yeah,
and
sure. Absolutely.
And I think what's important to understand that there are a lot of people out there that are thinking the same thing, and I think there's a great power in that. And so what you're saying now, that our consciousnesses are coming together via technology, and I think the internet is really one of the most tremendous booms to conscious awareness and our sense that we are co-creators of our reality, not only on the individual level, but on the global social level.
Right.
And
Not just the internet. Facebook in particular. Do you know neurons within the brain communicate over what are essentially vast distances? They communicate. One neuron can communicate with another over the entire field of the brain, a vast distance considering the size of neurons and the size of the brain, and it can do it instantaneously. Facebook replicates that completely. People on Facebook can communicate instantaneously with each other wherever they are. Um, in the 1960s, there was the phenomenon called the hippies, the love generation. And the love generation happened as isolated events linked to particular geographical areas. It happened in San Francisco. It happened in a lot of places in America, but it happened particularly in San Francisco. It happened in London, Paris, Amsterdam. That is because at that time we could only communicate locally. Now we can communicate instantaneously globally, and that is the value of Facebook. That is why I believe that Facebook represents the global brain in action. Over to you.
mhm, yes, I think there's so much we can go into here in terms of karma. Maybe we can cover that the next time. I'd like to go into your concept of dharma in relation to karma, but maybe we'll have to leave that for another time.
Yeah,
Um,
Dharma is a very big subject. But
yeah.
what we should do is, if you want to know more about karma, go to my website. I have a series of articles that talk about karma in a very understandable, easy to read. Everything on my website is pretty easy to read fashion. You'll enjoy it, honestly, and it will tell you so much. If you have questions, well, post them. This video will be archived on YouTube, and we'll be putting a link on the Hangout page to that archive. If you've got questions, put them into the comments. We'll answer them next time. How's that? Shall we call it a
Right.
day?
Okay. Yeah. We'll call it a day. And yes, people out there, if you have any questions, please do post them on the event page, and we'll get around to them
Oh yes.
next time.
No, on the Hangout page. On the Hangout page.
On the Hangout page, yes. Sorry.
Yeah.
Um,
Or
and uh, and also we'll be hopefully we will join you all for tomorrow's meditation. The two meditations tomorrow at 11 and 5. Is it 5:45?
no,
Yes,
5:30.
5:30 UK time.
Yep.
In the States, Eastern Daylight Time, it's 6 a.m. and 12:30 p.m.
Yeah, hard
Okay,
luck. Okay. Okay.
great.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody who joined us. I hope you found this hangout beneficial in some way. I personally found it thoroughly exhausting, and now I'm going to lie down.
Okay, thank you very much, David, and thank you
Thank
everybody
you,
for
Cooper.
joining us. And we'll see you next week, same time, same bat channel. Okay, good night.
Good night.